Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Regroup Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Marvin Ray. Marvin is the co-founder of the Mechanic Alliance. Marvin, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Marvin Ray. Been in the industry since I was 14. I'm 63, and a lot of knowledge there. And we've started a company called Mechanic Alliance.
Now, what was the catalyst for starting this organization? Why did you decide to build it?
Well, in here's history of my life. I've owned 5 repair shops, and I taught at a Votech. I was a tech rep for Snap-on, and then I was national training manager for Big O Tires and Grease Monkey International, of which I came off the road about 3 years ago because my back shot and I was on a cane. And as I was working the last gig with Grease Monkey International, traveling the whole country, I'd be talking to the techs. Everybody's always out there helping the owners, and I've always helped the techs with the owners, but I realized nobody was helping the technicians out there. When I would talk to a young man in a pit of a oil change facility, and I'd say, "Why are you here? What do you like about this?" "I love working on cars." And we realized that and said, "Well, okay, that's great," but we saw through the attrition rate that about a year and a half into it, these guys were leaving. And at that point, I realized it's because nobody's helping them to get to the next level.
Interesting. So you just decided to start up an organization to help specifically the techs. It
Yes,
began just with the techs.
yes. Uh,
Interesting.
we've always worked with owners, but there's so many programs out there that work with owners, but nobody's helping the technician. And as we get into this, we can discuss how techs are paid so people understand why it was important for us to do what we do.
Now, I saw on your LinkedIn that Mechanic Alliance is a nonprofit organization. Is that
Yes, yes,
currently correct?
we just moved to that. We were for profit. Our tools, of course, that we sell to technicians still is, but as we were doing this, and it was interesting, my co-founder partner Dave, who lives down the street from me, we were talking about this, and we were working on this business for a couple of years. We had another business. I still have another business called My Certified Mechanic, and it's a mobile mechanic business. And we started them both at the same time, and Mechanic Alliance started to take off. And so we started doing a monthly on it and helping techs and charging them to write their resumes and to help them with things like that.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until we met with Utah Veteran Alliance, and we've met with another company recently, Military Life, that we realized, we're going to do it for the veterans. Let's just do it for everybody. And so that's when we decided, let's go nonprofit. We see a lot in our group, of our Facebook group that we have, that mechanics are helping mechanics. That's our slogan: mechanics help mechanics. And we'd see a mechanic buy a scan tool for another guy. Twice that's happened. Or a guy would buy hats from us to donate to somebody. And so we thought, yeah, this is kind of the where the catalyst started, and we thought, let's just go total nonprofit.
Interesting. Um, Now, what is the current state of the auto industry, specifically the auto repair industry? Do things stay relatively the same? Is it easy to pass information from one generation to the next, or are things being a little shaken up right now?
No, it's easy. There's a lot of YouTube, of course, has, you can go to YouTube and learn anything. I even do that at my age to find things out. But as far as passing it on theory, there isn't. If you look across the nation, there's only a handful of universities now that even offer, like Illinois University. They have a automotive bachelorette program. There's only probably about a handful, 5 or 6 out there that do that. And a lot of those students go into the OEMs and all that. But as far as information that's passed, yeah, there's a lot of training courses. COVID took a lot of that down. I had a training company for 14 years, diagnostic wise. State
Mm,
of Utah actually helped fund it till 2008 when training went upside down and the whole economy, right?
yeah.
And so it was transferred that way. And now, of course, it's through streaming and those kind of tools.
Could you better describe for me, just from my own understanding, the process of how a mechanic trains, like his full education? I know it probably starts in high school, maybe they're
Yeah.
working on their parents' car. But what happens after high school? How do you progress through different layers of education and eventually become a master
Yeah,
mechanic.
that's a good point, David, because I was 14 years old. My folks bought me my first car for $50, a 63 Impala. By the time I was 16, I had it all built, ready to go. And so that's where it starts. We have with one of the organizations right now, her nephew we're helping. He's 15 years old. He's out in Ohio. He's got the knack. He wants to go into it. So the first thing is of course looking at going to a good technical school, one that will be in line with what that student's looking for. We help them with that process of, we like to look at them, and when we meet with somebody, we'll say, where do you want to be in 5 years? Because that 5 years is okay. You're just getting out of high school, so let's find you a good tech center to go to.
Mhm.
And at that point, then this is where the ball gets dropped. They leave the tech center and nobody's there to help them to get into a shop.
Mhm.
And a shop owner who owns 30 shops or whatever, he's so busy doing what he's doing. And so he hires a guy and he hires him to bust tires, and he just says, well, go over there and bust the tires. No training processes in a lot of shops. That's where we come in to help with. So we want to take that student individually and move them from that point up, because when you get into the tire techs and you get into the lube techs, what ends up happening, a year and a half, they're leaving the industry. And so our deal is to hold them there. When I myself left high school, I went to a technical college for 2 years. And David, it was interesting until about 5 years ago, I kept saying I learned more in 6 months in the field than I did the 2 years at school.
Yeah,
But then I realized one day, because of wisdom or age, that if I was to compare myself to somebody else who did not have that 2 year degree, I was much further ahead. And that's why I had said what I had said, is because I'd learned the theory. And
interesting.
so that's what you need to start with, is that theory. And then from there, some shop owners pay for training, some don't, but that's where we're going to pick up the ball, and we're going to help them with that further training and getting ASE certifications and such.
So you mentioned your education gave you a special edge, some edge that maybe other technicians wouldn't have. Is there any other skills or traits, something that, mechanics probably early on in their career can do to differentiate themselves and make them invaluable to the organization or
Yeah,
indispensable?
a lot of it would be, of course, is studying. And I mean, from wherever you're comfortable with. Of course, we've got items for you to train with in our website, which is free. We have a basic place where they can start, and they can look at things and kind of get an idea of help and all of that. But people in our industry are hands-on. I mean, they have
Mm,
to literally do it. There's your artist. He's so good at what he does, but he can teach you it, but he has to do it. And we're like that. We
mm.
have to, we're the guys that were pulling locks apart, like this 15-year-old now, or myself, cuckoo clocks, and fixing them and trying to make them work again. They have to have that kind of integrity, or that kind of understanding.
I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you mentioned that you are a specialist in, advanced diagnostics. Is that
Yes, yes.
early in a mechanic's career? Is there a specific area they can specialize in? I could be totally off here, but is there a specific area they can specialize in to, um, you know, uh, be different, or do you sort of have to be a jack of all trades when you're working in these auto
That's a fair
shops?
question, David, because in my career and all my time, there was a time when we did it all, and then there was a time we said you're going to have to specialize, and then it was you did it all. And actually, talking with Tim Janello from SIU actually yesterday, we were talking about the new students coming in, and he says they're talking about specializing again. The thing that you run into is everything's electronics. I mean, we're talking EV cars, electric vehicles. We've got the hybrids.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you can come in, and like yesterday, I had a shop of mine here locally that I work with, did my front end alignment. So you might specialize just in front end alignments. You can specialize in air conditioning. That's seasonal. So, you can't really specialize and make a living off of that all year round, of course, in most parts of the country. And then you have, of course, engines. We don't rebuild them like we used to. We're replacing them. We have transmissions that you can learn the theory, but again, we just replace those. So it would be that'd be your heavy line mechanic. He does that sort of stuff. The specialty really for today's kids, and where the money is and the money's for all of it, But the really high paying dollars is the diagnostic side. Is
Mm,
we have techs that are making really good money and raising their families great with what they make because they're hard to find. It's, we'll have parents go, I don't know, I want my kid to be in the automotive industry. Well, what is it you don't like? Well, mechanics haven't made any money in the past. That is true. But
mm,
on the onset of what's happening and where our industry is going, they're making a lot of money now. It's coming. It had to come because they're going to be those, not that you have to understand zeros and ones, but they're kind of the IT guys of the auto industry. You
mhm.
have a brand new Lincoln, I think, has 54 computers in it, and they all intertalk to each other. So you have to start understanding those kind of things.
Is the change now just the digitization of like the digital proliferation of every car in the industry, or is it like the specialty higher end brands that are representing the major challenges? Like, is it the EV
Um,
cars, the $100,000 cars, or is it even just the random, you
Oh yeah,
know?
it's coming to all of them. Of course, California's mandate 2035 for all electric. Even all your new cars now have your lane changing in your vehicle. Your If you have a cruise control that it was on the higher level cars is now in the mid class, and you're going to start seeing those in the
Yeah.
lower class cars. Those are all electronics. Those have to be run and set up with what's called an automotive ADAS system. And what that does is it's the cameras and all that sort of stuff. You got a camera on your car, anything like that. So yeah, it's becoming more and more. I think that probably within the next 5 years, I think I understood that every car manufacturer will be there. So yeah, it's a great time.
Mm.
We talked to some shops about just doing. We have one in New Jersey right now that tore up half of their shop and has remodeled it to do just diagnostics and the ADAS system and things like that because that is the future.
Interesting. And there's a lot of work there now.
Oh
I'd
yeah, oh
expect it to
yeah.
be.
Yeah, collision centers, every one of them. I mean, because new cars get wrecked too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of the body shops, they just do the body work. They still need somebody to come in and to be able to do the mechanical, the electrical, and that. It's a field that stands out on its own.
Okay. Switching focus now to more the owners and the business side of owning an auto shop. Um, I would assume the vast majority of these auto shop owners are just experienced shop technicians who
Most of them.
decided to go in business on
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
What trait or years or level of experience would you recommend to someone who's looking to start their own business?
That on that we help right from the get go. A lot of them are technicians that have gone there. In my day, you could just hang up a shingle, tell everybody in the neighborhood, and you had a job. People were coming and you were fixing cars. Today, it's a little bit more than that with all of the licenses you have to have and all that sort of stuff.
Mm,
But we had probably almost about 2 years ago, I think in June, we had one of our techs. He was a top tech of a repair shop in Virginia, and he'd been looking for 5 years to go on his own, and he'd never pulled the trigger, never pulled the trigger. And so he started talking with us, and we started helping him blend that so the next 6 months to a year he could be there. Well, somehow his boss got wind of what he was doing, and he fired him. So this guy leaves this shop with his last paycheck and his pickup truck and all the tools he's acquired, which can be $80,000 to $100,000 in tools. The average is about 45,000.
mm.
Left with that, and we helped him from there set his own business. And within the first 6 weeks, he was making more on his own than he was for the other guy.
Wow.
And so, if you have the knowledge to work that, now, no, not every tech does. They're really
Mhm.
good at what they do. Now, his wife's good at the books, and we lined him up with some bookkeepers and CPAs and stuff like that. The programs are out there today to help them with that, and we can coach them on those things as well. But yeah, the more you know, of course, about business is going to help. But you're
Mhm.
right, you nailed it, David. That most of them, they don't have the business savvy, and that's where we help them. QuickBooks is a real cheap thing to set up. Once you have it set up, it's pretty simple. We help them build a business plan that we keep, and that's the hardest part that we have getting through to a lot of anybody that's starting a new business is, why would you not have a business plan? They'll say, well, I got it up here. I said, well, that business plan is like that rudder on that ship that's coming from China. If it doesn't know where to steer it, it's not going to get here. So that's where we help in those areas, is because that is a big one. And we locally, not locally, but with our business, we work with new techs, any techs, but new shop owners. Any tech that wants to be a shop owner, that's becoming quite prevalent. You're starting to see a lot of mobile out there and things like that.
How many years would a technician want to spend with on-site, on-job experience before they even consider breaking out and going alone? Because it does seem like a big financial risk. How many years of experience do they want?
Yeah, I would say when you're looking at something like that, I would say I'd like to see a guy have at least 5 years
5 years.
at a dealership or an independent, because then they understand. At that point, they're going to know kind of where you ask what their passion is. What does he
Mhm.
like? If you could do one job all day, what is that? And then we help them build from there as a nucleus to their business, and then with the added things that they can go from there.
And then how much capital requirements are there for starting something like this? You mentioned that a lot of technicians might already own their own tools,
Yeah.
but is there additional cost that I'm not seeing? How much would it roughly be?
Yeah, well, it depends on how they go. We've actually been preaching going we believe in going small. I had two shops at one time. That is not the best way to go. I did that after 4 or 5 years, and they were 30 miles apart, and that's just a lot of work. It's do one and do it big. So it
Mhm.
depends on how they want to go. This guy, he took his paycheck and all his tools and his truck, and he went mobile, and he's been doing great. Now he's out in Virginia, so he has the ability to build a shop in his backyard, and he's doing that, and he's slowly growing it. If you were to go into opening a shop, that would depend on a lot of things. We have one that we meet with today at 4 o'clock that he's actually working with an owner, because the largest majority of owners are over 60, of taking that shop over from him. Those are always the best, because then he's already
Mhm.
doing some work equity for the next 5 years. He'll own the building. He'll own all of that. We did a business plan for him to show him. And this one's looking kind of light. So we're always honest that, this might be kind of tough and go. The prices are a little too much, or you're going to have to
Mhm.
drag this out a little bit more. So it's hard to answer that, David, in that every situation's different. I mean, if you wanted to go out and open one tomorrow, it's always good to have, depending on what your buildings are going to cost and all that. Those are real expensive. I mean, 2 years ago, we looked here in St. George, Utah, buying a piece of property for $250,000, and within the next 6 months, it approached 1.2. So
Yeah.
I thought, I can't wait. I can't go to bed every night wondering how I'm going to crack that nut. So a lot of it is different areas, but we would like to see them have at least we'd have to evaluate where their tool value is, what they owe there. And then, of course, if they can find a place. I was at a shop last week. He has 10 bays. He's only paying $3,000 a month. In any other city, that's going to be 10, 12,000 a month.
Mhm.
So it depends on location and that. So it can vary widely, but at least try to have, 20, $30,000 of working capital after you've done everything would help. And we have people that
Yeah.
help with those loans too.
Now, so it sounds like a lot of what you do at Mechanic Alliance is provide guidance and systems and a lot of the extra knowledge that owners need to think about. I'm curious what your thoughts are on franchises. It seems like you might do some of the things that franchises do for new owners. What are your thoughts there?
We don't. I worked for two franchisees. They were
Mhm.
great companies. The second one was fantastic. Absolutely loved how it was run. That's why it's one of the biggest and fastest growing companies in America right now. Franchise, as far as us, we would not do that. I've been in situations where I had worked in places and the franchise came in, and I'm not demeaning them because they have programs set in place. The thing that I have issues with is that it's getting the right guy in there. When I was working at Big O Tires, we had a couple guys had a lot of money, and they'd come from the technical industry, engineering and all that, and opened a
Mhm.
shop. Didn't really understand a lot about it and wanted to do it their way. And my comment to him was that you just spend a lot of money for a franchise. and you want to do it your way. I mean, that
Mhm.
doesn't work either. So there are cases in that. We primarily are working with the smaller, newer guys, on that. There's good franchises out there, and like anything, there's good franchisees and there's bad franchisees. It's a lot of money to get into them today. I mean, you're talking building and all that. You could have a $2.5 million outlay, and our guys aren't going to have that kind of money.
Yeah. Um, Specifically your guys, so newer businesses, what level of success are they seeing? Everybody knows the adage, 90% of businesses fail within the first, what is it, 3 years, 1 year? What's like the success win rate on starting up a auto shop?
Well, and that's a great question. Is SBA actually states that 9 out of 10 businesses fell in 10 years,
Yeah.
so that's huge. Well, and that's why we push a business plan. We can't push that enough. If you're thinking about going on your own and you think you have it up here, you can't do that. You've got to have it on paper. Now, keep in mind that can change. We've changed ours 3 times in the last 2 years, but it helps you understand where you're going and what you're doing. For that success to be there, your success is going to increase with that. What you're going to find out, like we always see, is you're going to have times you're going to be doing your social networking and you're going to be doing a lot of time there, and all of a sudden your business starts getting busy and you quit doing that.
Mhm.
And for years, when I was training, and I learned this even with my own shop, when you're selling, your sales go up, you up. Then you quit selling and your sales
Yeah.
go down, 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 and you have to sell again. We try to keep them on that even plane across, where they're understanding that. We have contacts with SEO guys that, I mean, to set up and do your all your SEO is 500 a month, so that's really nothing comparatively when a shop's charging 120 an hour. Do the math. He works
Mhm.
himself even half a day. He's paid for the whole month. So a lot of it ties into us helping support them and reaching for help. We might not be the ones that connect with you, but somebody reach out with somebody. There are the SCORE program across the country that is by retired executives that help at universities. There's the Small Business Administration companies, offices across the U.S. that help as well. Ask for help.
You mentioned SEO. Is that the primary marketing channel that you'd recommend for auto shops to invest in?
Well, what we have right now with and I'm learning this too, because everything we've done on our side and with our SEO and all that's been our own stuff. We just
Mhm.
brought him on. Actually, we connected through our Facebook group, Mechanic Alliance, and he's now doing our SEO for us. In his mind, because he was a tech moving up, he says, yes, SEO is definitely the place to go. And looking at ours, we hadn't done too bad. Well, or so he says. He says,
Mhm.
we're at about 65%, and I'm a 100% kind of guy, and going, well, that sucks. And he says, no, that's really good. That's better than most have. And so it's a lot of word of mouth is going to be the best in our industry. I mean,
Yeah.
just like you, I'm sure that if you have a bad example or a bad situation at the mechanic, you're going to tell 10 people about it, like I'm going to tell 10 people. If I have a good response, then I'm going to tell maybe 2 or 3. So it's really taking care of, there's a lot that goes on inside that shop of taking care of that customer, helping them, explaining to them what you're doing so they see the value and why you have to charge what you charge.
Yeah. Super high value stuff. Just like in my business, I think the industry stat is that word of mouth accounts for 90% of new business for marketing,
I
advertising
believe it.
agencies, stuff like that. I'm sure it's roughly the same in auto.
Yeah.
Um, Now, just pivoting towards your business, so Mechanic Alliance or your nonprofit, I should say. What are your current challenges that you're working on? What are the new initiatives, new projects? What issues are you facing right now?
Oh, we're in a growth spurt right now. We just had to go in, and we're very particular, like on our face group, of who we let in. We've had to do some kicking out and some rearranging there because we want to keep things professional. We're not about memes and that sort of stuff.
Mm.
The biggest thing that we're facing is growth. We are in a growth spurt right now, where now we've got SEO coming in. We've got, if you go to our website, we brought on David Marks. He's an owner out of Missouri. He's now our entrepreneur. He started in a little one bay shop in his backyard, has a shop now and a car dealership. He's
Mm.
back to doing wrecked cars at his home, has his team running great. He's helping a lot of our shop owners. It's the growth and keeping up with it, which we don't seem to have a problem because as we grow, it's really interesting how like minds kind of attract. We find the right people for that. We have top technicians that are trainers out there. We have companies coming to us. We're not the answer to everything, but we want to have the answer for everything.
What does the majority of your output look like right now? Is it one-on-one mentoring and coaching, or is it building training videos, stuff that can be like like scale up digital videos that you can send to everyone and train people en masse?
It's that one works. I'm still an older guy of toe to toe, belly to belly, we used to call it. I still like the calls. I like the Zooms like here. Every time that we talk to somebody like this, it's easy to help them. It's easy to see their emotions. We were working with a shop last week that hadn't followed the things that we'd asked them to do, and I had to come down hard on them and say, hey, you're not going to succeed with what you're doing. I'm not trying to be mean here, but this is what you were on the rails there for a season, you've gone off the rails, and now you want to do all this expansion and all that. You're not going to make it. And so it's the one-on-ones, the mentoring and talking, that helps, and then we can send them to the web to start learning stuff. When we do a resume for somebody, we talk with them probably 2 times. We always get that first one, and then we send them the stuff. They have to do their own homework because you're not going to learn if you don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Our resumes are specifically tied to the industry and where they want to work. Like if you want to be a service writer, we're going to build it like that. If you want to be a tech, we're going to build it like that. But we even in that dig a little deeper in the way that we will have them tell us on each job they've had how they made that job better with 3 bullet points. And it's amazing how guys go, I don't know. And yet after a week, they start thinking and going, well, yeah, I helped with this and I helped with this and I did this. And so, yeah, our biggest thing is getting the word out to help others. We do need some help trying to find somebody that can help us with grants. We know the mechanics will help fund this because that's what it's going to take at this point to do that. But in the meantime, we're just doing it because we know it's the right thing to do.
Is it just you doing the one-on-one meetings, or do you have a team of mentors?
There's Dave, my co-founder, does that. Travis does our if it's a mentorship of a young student, he does that. And then Dave does the shop. So there's 4 of us right now that can fill that gap. And as that continues to grow, we'll continue to add to it.
In terms of the target audience, so the people that you service, is it just super broad? So every auto shop owner, every technician, pretty well everybody that, works in the auto shop industry, or do you discriminate further somehow?
No. You can be working at a dealership. You can be working as a service writer at a lube tech building. We even helped the guy that was in the business go and get into more of an engineering type job because he was a really good tech at what he did. So no, we don't discriminate at this point. And we might get so busy one time we have to, but to us it's learning too, and that's our contacts of sending them out there. So we're, the processes are the same when you get into the shops of you got to have certain tools, you got to have certain knowledge, you got certain software you have to learn to do. So yeah, pretty much where I had worked with Big O Tires and with Grease Monkey on the training aspect, and this is where it took us a couple of years to funnel down, is because everybody says, well, what's your specialty? Well, David, if you come to me at any of those jobs, I would train you as a new franchisee all the way to the place of an exit strategy.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of stuff in between. And that's why we just fine-tuned it down to just training, business training and technical training, and specifically a highlight on diagnostics, because if you're not using lab scopes, if you're not understanding what you're looking at in theory, then that's what we need to help you with.
When a new business owner or a auto tech finds your company, are they blown away by sort of the service? Are they able to find this anywhere else? Like it seems like this level of service would usually cost at least owners of auto shops some absorbent amount of money. how are people reacting when they find out that you're doing this for
Well,
free?
well, it was interesting because in our industry, so a little tidbit here for the listeners out there is you go into an auto shop and like yesterday I'm at the shop and he charges $120 an hour. Well, you think, well, that's a lot of money, and you think, well, that mechanic's making that. Well, no, because the mechanic in the back's only making about $32 an hour,
Hmm.
and yet he has $45,000 worth of tools because the business owner has all these expenses. Well, what happened in the 50s and 60s is mechanics were getting half of the labor and a piece of the parts margins. That went away, and at that time, the owner was paying for all the diagnostic equipment, the big Sun boxes and the Allen test boxes and all that, and the mechanic was bringing in some tools. Well, unfortunately, and I do stand by this. We've had some companies that come into our industry years ago and said, "You're an owner, you deserve more." Well, you deserve more, but not at the point of starving your techs, and
Right.
that's where our business flourishes. So, in answer to that question, we have owners that don't like us at first until they get to know, hey, we're not their enemy.
Hmm.
We're helping them to raise their efficiency and where their shop needs to be, but they need to as a technician as well, because in our industry 73% of mechanics are 51 to and up.
Mm.
And we have on the 18 to 25 year olds, we only have 4% coming in. We have in the next 15 years 70% of this industry leaving of mechanics and technicians. And so
Mm.
that's why we're focusing on that. And my team now is handling all the higher end stuff, while Dave and I are going into the schools to help with their advisory committees and stuff like that. We are for the tech. We did start it as Mechanic Alliance, and people might say, what's the difference between a mechanic and a technician? Well, the reason you chose the term mechanic is we do feel and believe we are technicians, but the industry out there still knows us as mechanics. Snap-on spent millions of dollars with trying to educate, and people still call us mechanics, and that's okay. We know that we're doing technical stuff, and some people get all hurt over that stuff. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Just pay me, right?
I mean, yeah, most people see it that way, I think.
Yeah.
Um, that was interesting, sort of the not the population collapse, the industry population collapse, I guess. How do you see that affecting, you know, how do you see it affecting the world in 10 years when that 50 plus generation
Oh,
retires
it's
or starts
huge.
to
It's
retire?
it's huge. I've gone to meetings with other companies, and I don't think anybody takes it as seriously as I do. They go, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, we got a problem." I go, "No, this is catastrophic, people. This is a point in time where imagine we hear this all the time. A guy wants to open a shop and he can't get a business permit because the city doesn't want another auto shop in.
Hmm.
And agreed, there have been shops that come in, they got crappy cars sitting outside, the building's dilapidated, it looks like crap. Those are the guys we want to get rid of in our industry too. They need to go away. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, there's some major problems because in 10 years, 10 to 12 years, with cities not letting you get a license, putting up a business, not having techs come in, boy, you better have massive transit in your area, and hopefully they got some mechanics working on the stuff because I I'll be in a home or dead by then maybe, but the bottom line is that it's a catastrophic problem coming. There's people right now that good shops are booked 6 weeks out.
Ooh.
6 weeks out. So if you're getting in the same day on a shop, I'd start questioning it and reach out to us. We can help you even with that. As a consumer, we have a site, My Certified Mechanic. We kind of let that dwindle right now, but the idea was once this is up, see, we know where all the top techs are in the country now and the good shops,
Mhm.
and those are the ones that we want to in the future here line consumers up with. But right now we're still gathering and building here.
Just to touch on that, would you give any specific tips for normal consumers, people with cars and regular passenger vehicles? How do you pick a shop? What do you look for? What are your tips for dealing with mechanics to get the best experience out of that?
Uh, Fair enough question. I teach my shops, I call it the 300, 30, and 3. And what that is what does that shop look like from 300 feet? And then when you get up to the door, what does it look like at 30 feet, and at 3 feet, what does it look like at the counter? If
Mhm.
there's old greasy rags around, the place looks crappy inside. Let's start with the outside. If you go and there's a lot of old cars and they look like they're in the 90s and you're pulling in a 2018 car, I'd have some concerns.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting because, in truth be known, a lot of people find those places by, and it's women. Women are 85% of the decision maker in the car repair industry.
Interesting.
And I've always said for years, you need to cater to them. If you go in and there's all hunting magazines, well, they're missing the mark already. Um, a call to them, of course, there's reviews you can check out, and we know women talk to each other.
Mhm.
But even at that, just because Lucy told April that, hey, he's a really good guy and I really like him, is he being honest? And see, so there's that false security there. And that's what we want to do with our next business when we roll out. And that's going to be a couple of years off, but is to help be that second opinion. My mom's 84. She goes to a doctor. They gave her too much iron and she's had some health issues. So now she's learned, I go to that doctor, whatever he tells me, I'm going to another one to get a second opinion. And you should probably do that with your vehicle as well. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just where it's at. And but you're 330 and three, looking at the shop, does it look professional? That doesn't mean they don't have really good guys in there, but you don't want the car coming out with grease on the floor mat and grease on the steering wheel and having issues like that.
Yeah.
ASC certification, I think we have a lot of techs that just because you can learn from a book doesn't mean you're a good mechanic. I agree, but I think that's something to look for, any type of certification that they have. If you have a specific car, I myself with our mobile, we go out and do just the diagnostics, but I've tied into a shop that does major mechanical. He's really good. I tied in another one that's Euro and another guy that's even better than me at electrical. So it depends on your kind of problem. If it's check engine lights, yeah, AutoZone and getting that checked is going to cost you money because all they're out to do is sell you parts.
Hmm.
You need to spend the money to get a proper diagnostics done.
When you say you should look for a second opinion, under which circumstances would that be the best idea?
Right off, when you walk into an oil change, it's $85 and he tells you need $3,000 worth of work, I'd run.
Yeah. Okay.
I would. I would. I have a guy here local, 91 years old, did that. Checked the
Hmm.
vehicle out for him, ended up not charging him for it. There was nothing wrong with that vehicle. Now, were they
Hmm.
worn? Were they half life? Yes. Were they creating an issue? Absolutely not. So you go with your gut. If you're going, yeah, this seems like a little bit of an upsell. And see, consumers need to understand this is our industry goes to classes. Service writers go to classes to learn how to upsell you.
Hmm.
I don't agree on it. I don't. And I know I'm going to get blasted from people that see this. I don't. I can legitimately pull a car in and find things that are wrong. And if there's nothing wrong with it, turn it loose and bring the next one in. I don't
Yeah.
need to sell stuff that isn't needed. And here's my recommendation that I think would be the biggest of anybody that's not a technician, that's a consumer looking out there. Follow your owner's manual. I own a
Hmm.
2018 Hyundai. If it tells me to do this at this mileage, I do it. If it says somebody tries to sell that a third of the way through, I don't do it. Follow your manual.
You know what? That I think that's underrated advice. I've never heard that before, but that seems to make sense.
Well, it does, and that's what we taught at Grease Monkey, and that's what I loved about the company when they asked me to come train for them. Is that I don't want that monkey on my back and telling people stuff they don't need, and I won't do it. I
Mhm.
won't. And so that's what that manual's for. Get on the deal and find out and get a second opinion if you feel that's not right. And have them show you. That's the other thing. The other
Mhm.
next biggest thing is I've always with my shops, I'll take you, David, if you were in my shop, any of them, and I had something that was major to do, I'd say, come on down, let me show you what's going on. And you might go, I don't understand this, but there's that intervention of that. Well, he's not going to show me something that's not bad. He's not going to lie to me because he doesn't know
Mhm.
my knowledge. Yeah.
Hmm. You said any of your shops. Do you own more than one auto shop?
Well, I've had five. I don't have any now. They've all
Had
sold
five.
through the years. Yeah, my last one when I started my diagnostic training company, I had to sell it because I came home every weekend. I was just putting out fires and I couldn't do
Hmm.
both. You can't serve two masters, they say.
Is it, were you always hands-on with those shops, or were you ever able to take yourself out of the business?
That's a great question. So that's a very powerful question because
Mhm.
that's what we teach today. My first shop, now imagine this is oh geez, I have to do the math there for you real quick on that one.
I'll
So
take
I
your time.
was 25. So my first shop was 38 years ago. We didn't have the internet. I was one of the first cell phones in the area. We didn't have the stuff. And so at that point, I would say, no, I did not.
Mm.
My one in Brigham City, I opened my second one. Jeff South managed it. I did pull myself out of it. He ran it wholly. I did that. Then when I came to St. George, I did my diagnostic one. And there was just two of us. I kept it small. So I was in it, but I was doing mainly the books and I was learning diagnostics because at that point we didn't have YouTube and all that.
Mhm.
My first month, 6 months, I learned and I lost some money because I'd break a part or it was the wrong part. And I wouldn't charge the customer for that. That's not his fault. That's my knowledge fault.
Mhm.
The third one was run by another guy, and so was the other one. And then my very last one was hands off. So yeah, I've learned
Mhm.
that. That's a very powerful point that you can work too much in your business and not on your business. And we do teach that. David Marks helps with that. Is that you have to learn to step out and manage your business.
Would there ever be a situation where it's advisable for a third party investor to get into the auto business without having prior knowledge in the business and no business partner with experience working on cars? Would
Yeah,
that, yeah.
I've seen it happen. I know one guy right now in a shop. He didn't have any knowledge. He hired a guy from a parts store to run his front counter, and he stole a top tech from another shop, opened it, and
Mm,
he's doing killer because he understands business. Yeah, they're far and few between. Um, it can be done with the right team,
mm.
but you have to still, I don't know, I'm still a believer that you need to know and understand the industry a little bit more, but he's done really well with it. So I can think of one in particular right now that has done really well with that. And he has made his team members a part of the business too. So I think that's helped is because they're not just employees. They have a portion of the company
Mhm.
and they feel like it's theirs, which, breeds better techniques and quality.
I feel like that would be really important, especially if there is this cataclysmic event coming up where service technicians are about to become very rare. Just wild speculation. Do you see, do you see any other solutions to deal with that crisis? I know we're just backtracking a bit, but can, AI robots or
Yeah,
something solve
yeah,
our situation? Is
yeah.
it going to be public transit everywhere? Like, how do we, or
Actually,
is, yeah.
actually, you're right. We do. We sell a product that's called Top Dawn. They're new to the U.S. They started in overseas, and they have scanners and they have the ADAS systems, and they are working right now. They have a virtual reality set that you can put on, be looking at the car where the
Mhm.
problem is, talking to a tech, which I see being a lot of the older guys that are 55 to 65, who their bodies are worn out but still have the knowledge
Yeah.
of do this, and do this. Also met with a company last week that is very sharp, and they're out of California, and they are working on AI. His next deal is to figure out how we can have AI help with that. So yeah, technology. This is our industry is not immune from this at all, and I think that those are some of the things we're going to have to look at. You're still going to have that mechanical person out there because somebody
Mhm.
still has to replace it. In contrast to your question there too, I've had it in my mind of a loop shop that's all robotics underneath.
Mm.
If they know the car layout, they know where it sits for it to come in and take the oil filter off and drain the oil and all of that. Yeah, I believe that's highly possible. They're doing it with burgers, pizza, and everything else.
Well, if they haven't mastered it with pizza, I think it might be a little bit of a stretch to apply that to cars.
Well, it is, but you've seen some of the robots that they've come out recently, and
Yeah.
I mean they build them with robotics, so it's like, why can't you do it that way with hooking up to the DLC connector, the data link connector, where we hook our equipment into? I mean, today you can know what the fluid level is. You know so much
Mm.
about that car that that you could actually, with the right software, which I'm sure is already in there, there's so much more they could unleash that you could pull into a station, they hook that up, and give you a complete report of this is what you need, and on you go.
Have you talked with or are you aware of any business that's currently investing into that or doing research into that? Or is,
I have one right now on the AI that I met with last week. Yeah, they were
yeah.
brought to our attention where they actually have some pretty cool tools and equipment we're working out with right now to help them sell it. But yeah, he's very young, he's very sharp, and that's his next step. And when I heard that, it was like, wow, now there's a concept. That's the first time I'd even heard of it or thought of it.
Well, it's an exciting future.
It is. It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. There's so much to learn and so much to achieve in it. You'll hear people in our industry that go, "Oh, I tell my kids not to be a mechanic." There may have been a day for that. That day's gone. I
Mhm.
guarantee you, if you do it right and you're doing what you should do and you're being paid what you should pay, it's a place where you can make a great living.
Now, you mentioned that one of the top things you coach new students on is creating a 5 year, 10-year plan, a business plan. What is the business plan and 5, 10, 15-year plan for Mechanic Alliance? Where do you guys see yourself in the crazy new
Oh,
world?
that's a fair question. And I thought of it. So I'm already in the process of getting this up and getting it going. I'm already starting to pass the baton to others that are younger. Our national director, Aaron Marion, I would guess he's in his mid 30s. Those are the guys that we want to get this going, and we're bringing those guys in. Travis is probably that same age. Brian's 30. Our deal is to get this up, get it going, let the young ones, and we like working with the guys that are in the shop still, because when you get behind a desk like myself, I have the knowledge. I had a diagnostic center I set up 25 years ago. Today it would still work, but I just don't have the what with to do it anymore physically and all of
Mhm.
that. But it's passing the torch. It's getting this rolling where we are, and we will continue at it. Dave he's a mechanical engineer for oil rigs. He's retiring, also retire this year. So he's 65, I'm 63. We see, so 7 years, we see this continue to go there and grow. We have the one side of the company, Mechanic Alliance, which is selling equipment. At that point, maybe somebody acquires us. The donation side, we'll stay with it as long as we can, but we want to pass the torch off to the right people in the industry that truly know and understand and have their thumb on the heartbeat.
Marvin, that was a super fun conversation. Thank you so much for all of your insight.
I
Where
appreciate
can
it.
where can people find you if they either want to, learn more about you or they want to join in on Mechanic Alliance program?
Yeah, just go to mechanicalliance.com. It's all there. There's a contact button if you want to reach out to me. There's a mentor button. Sign up, start seeing some of the training, and just reach out.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Marvin.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate you. It's been fun.
awesome. Okay.